Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show after a couple of day hiatus. Myself being out of town, we are back with another episode for you. I'm your host, Daniel J. Alongside with me is Big Blue and Jaime G, as always. How you doing, Jaime? We'll
I'm
start off
doing
with you.
great, man. I'm doing great. Took a couple of days off, and now we're back. Now we're back.
Re- Recharging the batteries. How about yourself, Big Blue?
I'm good, man. Good. Today's my day off, so I'm recharging the battery and enjoying a cold one. So,
Ooh,
yes,
enjoy
sir.
it.
Yes,
Enjoy it.
sir.
So, today, what we're going to be talking about is the possible defense or what holes are in the probable cause affidavit that could create some reasonable doubt. Now, I, for one, think there's a lot of holes in this case. I don't think it's as strong as the media and as the prosecution are laying it out to be at this point. And we're going to go by it step by step. First thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is the first thing that comes out in the probable cause affidavit that states that Bryan was at his apartment at 242, and I'll share this with everybody. We'll go this direction here. So Bryan was at his apartment up here at 242. That's where his phone was pinged. But at the
Mhm.
same time, he was traveling northbound at 244, where a vehicle that is suspected to be his traveling northbound on Nevada Street from Stadium at 244. Now, I took the privilege of pulling up a map to see how long that takes and the fastest possible route there because that amount of distance, which is about 2 miles away, in 2 minutes, and you have to be traveling at 60 miles an hour to get there, uninterrupted. So no traffic stop. I mean, traffic lights, none of those things, no stop signs. 60 miles an hour, and that's how you get there. It is a 6-minute drive.
Mhm.
And the odd thing about this is when he's coming through here to go home and they have him on tape, they have him here at this intersection, at this intersection. This is at 5:27 a.m. at this intersection and up here heading towards his house, but they don't have any video of him heading in this direction. They just have somebody go in this direction matching his description. Now, do you think it's feasible to travel 2 miles in 2 minutes throughout this residential area uh, and get through, make sure you get no red lights or any of those things, or he ran them, but not to come out on any other cameras either? How do you find this? We'll start off with you, Jaime.
It's plausible, like you said, if you're traveling real fast down the street, especially with no traffic lights, no stop sign, and obviously no law enforcement. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Apparently not. If he was traveling 60 miles an hour through these streets.
Yeah.
Um, Here's the thing: what makes the police think that he was traveling north at 2:44 a.m.? One, they say they have his phone pinged, traveling through Pullman up to 247. Okay,
Mhm.
that's one thing. And two, I'm assuming it's a unique identifier that they are able to identify it is his vehicle. And my assumption is, because it's been brought up several times, that it is the front license plate. Because he had Pennsylvania license plates at the time, it wasn't required that he had a front license plate. And so um, the assumption is that they were able to identify this vehicle as a white Hyundai Elantra that was traveling through here at this time without a front license plate. Now, if it wasn't him, that tells me that there's another vehicle matching his description of the vehicle with the same unique identifier in the vicinity, in the general area of where he's at. That's a little bit that kind of puts a lot of question marks here. What do you think, Big Blue?
Yeah, I mean it's a possibility that they said that there was over a couple thousand in that state alone. So I'm pretty sure if it's not pinging that he's there, it could be somebody else's car.
Now they said that within there was 90 white Elantras within the college area. I think with WSU and University of Idaho,
Mhm.
and so that's a lot of vehicles. The other thing is that I thought was a big question mark about this probable cause affidavit within this vehicle is the police came out that they were looking for a 2011 or 13 Hyundai Elantra, which was super specific, right?
Mhm.
Now, in the probable cause affidavit, it states that after determining or looking at the visual evidence, that it could have been a 2014 to 2016 Elantra. My question is, when did they make that determination that it could be a 2014 to 16 Elantra? To answer my own question, it would have to be after they already found or suspected Bryan as the potential actor in this incident, because had they found out that it could have been a newer model of Elantra, don't you think that the FBI and the police department would have broadcasted that out?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think if they were looking for that specific model and year, they would disregard the first one and would have told us that either 2011 to 2016 at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Right, exactly. And so the fact that they never broadcasted that out, that leads me to believe that they didn't figure that out until after they had suspected Bryan Kohberger, which is, in my opinion, them making him fit their narrative, so to speak. So,
I mean, I think they got more of an idea who it was when the DNA came back. They knew it was a white car and they knew it was a white Hyundai, but it's hard to tell sometimes those years on a night camera. I mean, at night.
hmm This
no,
that's true because obviously like you seen the 2011 Hyundai Elantra plus all the way to 2016. It's not that big of a difference. They haven't really changed a lot besides the tail lights and some of the headlight design.
right. And those things would be hard to determine from a picture or from a night vision or surveillance. And I understand that. My question is, they never changed
Yeah.
the possible description of the vehicle.
hmm
That leads me to believe that they didn't think that it was newer
Yeah.
until after they had already pointed out Bryan as a suspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about the two.
Now, from that address that he was seen on camera, to this is the 22 King Road address. It's typically 16 minutes. And so if he was seen here at, let's just put it that he was there until 2:47 a.m.
hmm
and about, let's say he was driving slow at 20 minutes, that would put him at around 3:05, 3:07 at the property.
hmm
Yet he doesn't pass by the first time until, hold on, let's go and look at it real quick. He doesn't pass by until 3:29.
hmm
So another 15 minutes later.
Yeah.
So what was he doing? And here's a big question mark. When he's first noticed is at 3:26 over here. This is east of the victim's house. He
hmm
was traveling from the west to the east, and when they got him on tape, they have him traveling from the east to the west. He's traveling here on the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive, and then they catch him at this intersection here, and we're assuming it's from the A&W um, camera system that's here. And let me check something else real quick. We'll put us down there. This is at 3:28, so you can kind of follow. Yeah, there's no cameras here outside of the ones that are located on the side of the building, and there's one right there. And I'm sure there's others that are out here.
Yeah.
We've seen them. We've seen other content creators bring them up.
Yeah, they're typically always facing like the gas pumps. When people get
Right,
robbed or catch on fire, they have to have evidence of what happened.
When they,
right.
they have beer runs too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's traveling from, man, my Google Earth is kind of jacking up. Let me have to reopen it. Man, this always happens to me. So he's traveling from the east to the west when he was coming from Pullman, which is west going east, right?
Yeah, he's like in the neighboring neighborhood, right?
Yeah. Now, perhaps he went for a drive, to put his nerves at ease, whatever the case may be, right? But why isn't he picked up on any cameras going into town,
Hmm.
any cameras going into that neighboring neighborhood? This guy's been following them. Apparently, they have him on 12 different pings, traveling, in and around the area.
Hmm.
Don't you assume or think that he would have came out this direction first? I mean, based on this here, he travels from, he's heading westbound, and then he comes this direction. He's going directly there. It's at 329, I believe, is when he did his first pass. And so, yeah, 329. And then he did three passes between 329 and 420, going back and forth and parking at around 4:04 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? And that's all by video. He then leaves at 420 at a high rate of speed and is seen heading southbound on Valencia Drive at 420, picked off of surveillance as well.
Hmm.
Now, here is another part of this probable cause affidavit that doesn't make any sense to me, is that they assume that, or they speculate, which you shouldn't be putting speculation like this in a probable cause court document, but they do. They speculate that he has exited this intersection of Paulus and Conestoga Drive, because this road goes directly to Pullman, Washington, right?
Hmm.
And when he comes in and they see him here at 526, they identify him coming off of this road because this road here goes directly to Moscow. However, they are aware and they know that he wasn't on that road at that time. He was down here near Blaine, Idaho at 4:48 when his phone turned back on.
Yeah.
My question is, how did he get down there without being seen? Because you have to travel through this intersection to get there if he was out here at this place.
Hmm.
And at this intersection, you have one, two, three, four cameras.
That's not including the businesses.
Exactly. So, how did these cameras not pick him up going this direction south towards Blaine, Idaho?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's
no. Some of those it's a little confusing because some of them look like cameras, but some of them are just sensors to see if anybody's at the light. So they would have to verify with the
You're
city
right.
engineers and see if they're actually cameras because there are some that are just sensors.
You're right. You're right. They could be sensors, but these
That
look
does
like
look like a
cameras to me,
camera though.
man.
Yeah, it does look like a camera.
yeah. They're
It looks like a sensor and a camera.
well. If there's anything like my hometown, they're probably just not working.
Yeah.
That's possible, but for all four of them not to be working,
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a stretch. So,
Unless you went around them through a parking lot. But even with the parking lot, maybe the businesses should have
well, the
security cameras.
right, but the only one that I can see is if he came in through here,
Hmm.
came around this direction, and then traveled quite a bit of ways down to around right here to exit to not be picked up by these cameras here.
Yeah.
Let's look at this real quick because he was picked up on these cameras. Let's look at how these cameras look. It was let's see if they're the same. I don't even see any. Oh, they're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look the same to me.
Yeah, they do. Does the other one have one? Oh
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, they look exactly the same.
Yeah.
And so these cameras picked him up.
Hmm.
And so my question is, you know, why isn't he picked up here?
Yeah. Once he exited the neighborhood, he went west, right? You said.
Um,
Let's speculate, right? Let's speculate.
they speculate what is out there is that he came out this direction here.
Hmm.
Now it's speculated that he exited this road
Hmm.
because they say that road goes directly to Pullman.
Yeah. Okay.
But they also put that he's pinned or pinged
Yeah.
down in this direction, and they even have a map that shows him going out and around.
And
And so,
then
go ahead.
once he gets back into Pullman, he's pretty much photographed all the way home, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Every step of the way, right here at 526,
Mm-hmm.
and then he goes northbound on Bishop. Now let's look at these, so we can see what type of cameras we're looking at if they're the same.
I was want to hear the sound. Zoom. There.
I don't even see one here. Yes, but this is that he went northbound. Maybe it was from a different type of camera, from a business or something,
Could be.
or from the railroad. But they say he went northbound on Bishop, and then they have him going back up this direction, and then the path back to his house at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Now, here's the interesting thing, though. Investigators found that the 8:45:58 phone did connect to a cell phone tower that provides service to Moscow on November 14, but investigators do not believe that that phone was in Moscow on that date. The phone is not connected to any towers that provide service to Moscow since that date.
Hmm.
And so my biggest thing is it says it connected to a cell phone tower, but they do not believe was in Moscow that day. What does that say to you? We'll start with you, Heaven.
It sounds to me like the pings are not reliable. They're not. It's not solid evidence. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So I find it to be extremely concerning, especially when a lot of their evidence is that they have him pinged 12 times around the area in the vicinity.
Mm-hmm.
If he wasn't in Moscow, but he was pinged in Moscow on the 14th, then how many of those 12 times that he was supposedly near the residence did he ping? Now, I know that Steve came out and said that he connected, that he had connected to their Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I saw that.
Don't you think that he'd, unless it's just unprotected, wouldn't he have to know their password?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about earlier. It's like I know when you open your Wi-Fi or your Wi-Fi on your phone, right, to connect to a service, it asks you which one you want to get on, and then it still asks you for. If it's not protected, it's going to ask you for a password, right?
Right.
If not, it won't connect.
Exactly.
So how is that possible? Where he connected to that residence Wi-Fi?
I mean, I think it registers that the Bluetooth got picked up trying to link in. It doesn't mean that he tried putting the password for it. I think that the Bluetooth is that smart where it picks up, like, if you walk in somewhere. I know my phone sometimes into my brother's house. I've already been there before. It'll automatically sign me into his Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
And
but you would have had to have logged in at one point.
At one
yeah,
point, yeah.
but it read that I was there, so I'm pretty sure it read that the phone was there, but it doesn't say it was registered in. But it just said that he linked to it.
And
Like,
so what you're saying is that it's possible that, for instance, me, that my neighbors have Wi-Fi. I've never signed into their Wi-Fi, but their Wi-Fi, if they pulled it up, would register me being close enough to
yeah,
log in.
I think so. Because I know, like
Interesting.
mine, when I tried to Bluetooth a speaker last time, like I kept getting my neighbor's speaker trying to Bluetooth, and like, and
Wow.
but then it would ask for the code. I'm like, well, it's not my Bluetooth. So it got annoying after a while. I had to restart my phone because it had the
Here,
ping.
here, here's a little bit of conspiracy. Do you think he was in this neighborhood to pick somebody up?
You know what I find weird is that he knew like how come he didn't go to the house earlier
First, right?
when they weren't there? Like how do you know that they were going to be there? Like for sure.
Well, not even that. I mean, he circles the house a
Mm-hmm.
total of 3 different times, and then on the fourth time he goes and parks. Right. I
Yeah.
would assume that that's what he would have done immediately getting into Moscow is go to the house, check it out,
First.
If he saw the lights were on, then go and then come back and then go and come back until the lights
Mhm.
came off. But he didn't do that. The first place he went to, or at least the first place he got picked up at,
Mhm.
is over here at this neighborhood. Now
Yeah.
we know he didn't go over here because there's a ring device that was picking up every travel that was going down this road.
Yeah.
Now,
Do you
why
think?
would he be over here?
Do you think it's a matter of he was casing out some houses and he had already had some chosen, and maybe the people that were supposed to be near the house weren't there?
Maybe, but
Maybe he was driving around trying to get the nerve to do it.
right. But don't you think he would have driven
Yeah,
first to the
for
house,
for sure.
like just to pass by it?
I think.
I mean, the temptation
Yeah,
to
I
do
think
that,
so. I would think so.
but he doesn't. He comes over here to this neighborhood
Hmm.
first, and yet there's no surveillance of him anywhere coming into this town.
Yeah,
Like absolutely none.
that's what I was thinking. Is like, how was he picked up on that side of town and not anywhere else?
Right.
My other thing is I've read a little bit about the cell phone towers, and sometimes it can pick you up or you get deflected to another tower that's close by. If it's cloudy and you can't link to that one, it will push you to the next one.
Hmm.
It's kind of weird. It's like when
Yeah.
you
It
go.
also go ahead.
It's like when you go down to Fiesta in San Antonio. You could be downtown and you won't get no cell phone service because everybody and their mother's trying to use your cell phone and you can't even call out.
Right. And the valleys and the mountains will also play a toll on it. And
Hmm.
this is in Idaho. There's mountains all around it. Maybe not in the vicinity, but there are mountains and hills around this area. And it's a rural area. It's not a you know a metropolitan area. And so from right here, from the time that he gets picked up, he goes directly to this house. So
Hmm.
now he's seen going in this direction. If he's not picked up down here, I mean, could he have exited somewhere like right here and then traveled back into this neighborhood? Or maybe gone?
Yeah, because he only gets picked up once, right? On that one row,
Yeah, he gets picked up here, here,
and that's
and
it,
then
right?
here.
Yeah,
And that is, oh, and also around the victim's house. But
yeah, but
outside
like,
of the victim's house, yeah, it's one, two, three different times while in Moscow. The vehicle that they suspect is his is picked up only three times.
so the one 328, right, which was that intersection, he only gets picked up once on there, right?
Right. He doesn't get picked up coming back out through there.
Okay. Yeah,
And
like,
and from my knowledge, he doesn't get picked up going this direction into
mhm.
this neighborhood either.
Might know an answer to this question. Maybe Dr. Skinner. We have to ask him. He knows about frequencies and
You
all
know
that.
what? You're absolutely right. We got to get him back on the show and see what he can come up with.
Yeah.
But I just found it odd that he's here. You know,
Mhm.
I would have assumed when you read it that he would have been somewhere in this neighborhood or around here at 326 when they initially got him. But it's
Mhm.
it's across the major highway over here, and then he's pinged down here in this area, and this is probably way more rural. And probably the points are probably less accurate the further away from these towns are,
Yeah.
and so
Also the
who
radius,
knows
right?
what's that?
Yeah. Also the radius, how close you have to be. Like, I don't know how accurate those pings are,
Right, right.
but I mean, if you're way down there, show me the other one where he's close to was it Blaine?
You have Blaine, and then he went to Genesee,
Yeah,
and
that
then to
one.
Unionton.
That's a big difference from the farther one up north.
Yeah, and so he went around this big old loop, comes back in, and is caught on cameras coming this way.
Hmm.
Now, the other thing I don't understand is why isn't he caught on camera here going towards Moscow? Maybe there's a different area he could have gone. I think there's a route this direction, but unless there's just so much more that they're not putting out, which is quite possible.
Yeah.
It's quite possible. But based on the information that they have here, there's a lot of holes there. And, that's just the pins, and once you have one and the probable cause comes out and it says that it was pinned in Moscow and they don't believe that he was there, that kind of puts in question all the other ones that are out there. Don't
Yeah.
you guys think?
I feel like it will. I mean, all they have to do is give them reasonable doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I wanted to go through this one more time again so we can kind of talk about what Dylan said and the interior of the house. And so let's go up back here. So this room here is where Xana and Ethan were. Now, in the probable cause affidavit, it states that um, Dylan, who was staying in this room here,
Mhm.
heard at about 4 o'clock what sounded like Kaylee and was playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms.
Yeah.
And then, shortly afterwards, she could hear what somebody that she thought was Kaylee say something to the effect that, I think somebody's here.
Mhm.
Probable cause affidavit goes into saying that they believe it wasn't Kaylee. So they're already doubting the witness.
Mhm.
Right? Right. The witness said she heard what she thought was Kaylee say, um, and I don't think she probably said, I heard what I thought was Kaylee. It's probably more like, maybe I think I heard Kaylee, or I heard somebody say,
Yeah.
someone's here and it sounds like Kaylee. And their thing is they believe it was Xana because Xana was on um, TikTok at the time,
Yeah.
right at 412,
Yeah.
And I'm
right?
pretty sure that they got that video evidence if she's doing a video or even ever live. I think it gets saved somewhere.
I'm not sure she was doing. I think it just says that she was
Active.
active on TikTok, using TikTok,
Hmm.
and so
That was 412, right?
right, that she was active on TikTok until 412.
Mhm.
Now, if it was Xana or anybody who says, I think there's somebody in the house, who do you think she's telling, right? She's probably telling Ethan. There's somebody in the house. They had just gotten their food. She had gotten a Jack in the Box food order in
At 4,
uh,
right?
right at 4 o'clock. They just finished their food. She was on TikTok. She's probably telling Ethan this. Now, um, what do we think happened? Do we think that they left the room, or did the actor go into the room? Well, based on where the body was found, there was one that you can see right here on the floor.
Hmm.
It was described as being like right here. And you have what looks like a red liquid substance that is, similar in color and looks like in texture as possible blood along the back wall into the frame. So I would assume that one was back here. Both were awake.
Hmm.
2-on-1 situation. One thing that all these kids and students and associates of Bryan Kohberger, who talked about his, the way he was acting after the incident and how he was being more animated, more talkative, unless it came to this case.
Yeah.
None of them mentioned any scratches, any bruises, any cuts, any of those things. You would assume with two people awake that they would have fought back in some manner, and that there's evidence of that. You have Steve say that it looked like there was a hell of a fight down there. You have the coroner stating that some of them had defensive wounds,
Hmm.
things of that nature. Don't you assume that, especially Ethan being a taller, athletic guy, stronger than Bryan Kohberger, that he could have, possibly
Put up a
defended
fight.
himself? Yeah, put up a fight and had left some kind of visual markings
Yeah.
on Kohberger.
I
What are
would,
your thoughts?
I would suspect you would. Yeah. But even from the beginning, they also even the beginning they said that they were all asleep when it happened. I don't know how fast they could fall asleep from 4 o'clock to 412, right?
Well, the fact that Xana said, I think somebody's in here, leads me to believe that at least she was awake
Hmm.
and that she woke up Ethan
Yeah.
telling her that.
Hmm.
And so I would assume that both parties down there were awake. It was a 2-on-1 situation here.
Yeah.
Um, then you have Dylan say that after she heard what sounded like crying, and somebody say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." And she opens the door, and then she sees somebody walking dressed in dark clothing with a mask that covered the mouth and the nose, um, or the mask that covered the mouth and the nose, and she could see his bushy eyebrows, and that he walked past her and
Mhm.
towards the glass doors here.
Yeah.
Now, my assumption is he didn't see her. If you can, the way you see this door opening, and the it opens inside, the door frame is to the left, and so where it frames up and it opens through, that leads me to believe she probably didn't open it all the way. She cracked it
Hmm.
and was able to see him walking, and he didn't see her. Now, she was able to identify the bushy eyebrows and the dark clothing and the mask, but not a knife in his hand.
Yeah.
Now we know that it's probable he had it in his hand because he didn't have the sheath. The sheath was left upstairs next to Madison.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that I had realized about this. The second thing is, who put the stools on this door? Because I strongly disbelieve that it is the police. That would be contaminating evidence to the max if
Yeah.
they put that there. Who did and when? Had to have been after the situation.
Hmm. No.
Now, Dylan apparently is frozen in shock, but has enough to lock the door and go and, but not call 911.
Hmm.
Not victim blaming or any of those things, but how probable does that scenario sound to you guys? And we'll start off with you, Big Blue.
I have two two theories on this part. You know,
Mm-hmm.
one is it's a party house, people come in and out, and you never know if the girls upstairs had a night guest and he was leaving. You know, so it could have been, and it could have happened more than once. You know, she was kind of used to it. And the other thing was, if she was that scared and shocked that she closed her door and locked it, why didn't she call the police just for like, or check on her friends to see, hey, are y'all okay? Even by just texting them.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends wouldn't have responded to me, then I would have been like, well, hey, something's up.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like, so that's my theory. Like, I think maybe she wasn't shocked and she panicked and didn't do anything, but it's crazy.
Hmm.
What about you, Hammer? What do you think about this scenario?
Well, if she thought it was just another person, like, because like Blue said that there was a lot of parties going on, and if she thought it was just another person, then I don't see why she would get shocked. You know what I mean? That she wouldn't
Being shocked? Yeah.
be in shock. You know what I mean? Like, if in order for her to be in shock, she should have suspected something was wrong in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And when it comes down to her hearing what she thought was Kaylee, right,
Mm-hmm.
saying that there's someone here,
Mm-hmm.
um, that could have been a red flag for her. Plus, she heard someone crying too.
Right.
Like, and for her not, like, the fact that it was just, it's not, it was the wrong reaction, I guess you can say. You don't
Mm-hmm.
expect that reaction. You expect a different reaction, to call for help if you hear, or at least reach out to whoever you thought was crying, since
Right.
they were friends.
Now, this guy was super vegan, right?
Hmm.
Like he didn't like he made his family change pots and pans, and this has been well documented that he was vegan. The leather, the leather sheath. It's handmade, single piece of leather cut by hand. It's made of 100% quality Italian leather, made with 3.5 millimeter, very durable leather, thickness, whatnot. Do you think that somebody with that kind of super veganism, I don't know how you call it, would be using a leather sheath, knowing that it comes from cows?
I suspect they wouldn't, man. I mean, like you say, he didn't want to eat from restaurants that use the same pans or the same utensils, that had meat. on them.
Hmm.
So like I don't know why he will go out and buy a knife knowing that the sheath is made out of 100% leather. Unless the specific knife he got wasn't leather, maybe it was like a polyurethane thing base. You know what I mean? That makes it like imitation of leather, like
Right, but
leather.
that would indicate that it was a like probably a less expensive knife, probably less durable
Exactly.
knife. I don't know if
And
that knife is going to be the kind of knife that's going to be able to do the damage that it did.
exactly. And plus, didn't supposedly it was like a $500 like that specific knife that the K bar sells is like $400 or something like that.
Well, there was one person that claimed that he had purchased a knife from him for $400.
Oh,
Everything
okay.
that I've found on this is anywhere between like 100 to maybe $80.
Mhm.
They're less expensive ones that are out there, but
Mhm.
then you get into a situation of durability and practicability and
Yeah,
you get what you pay for type of situation. And
yeah,
I don't think that those knives are, and I could be wrong, would stand up to the type of damage that was done with what he did.
yeah.
Now, let's
I
just say
think
he
if the,
go ahead, Boo Boo.
if the guys in prison can kill you with a toothbrush, they can kill you with anything, man.
Right, but the toothbrush ain't gonna be able to go through four people.
Yeah.
It's gonna break. Especially once you hit, the way it's described, the
Bone.
coroner stated that the lethal puncture was the center to the chest area. There's ribs, there's bone,
The
there's a
chest
lot
plate.
of stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's there to protect vital organs, and so one would believe that it was probably a a very
Hmm.
durable weapon.
Do
Now, if my question is, if he were to do it just to kind of throw people off and maybe even have left the leather sheath there on purpose because of that, didn't realize he left his DNA on there. Um, I don't foresee him, especially if he left the sheath there on purpose
mhm.
to throw people off because of it's made out of leather and he's a vegan. Um, I don't think he would have had that knife in his possession for very long, so it'd be easily traceable, don't you think?
You would think so. Um, I just think that, like you said, like maybe he did do it on purpose, like to throw people off, right? But I don't think him leaving there. I don't think he will leave it there. It'll be really risky, for the fact that he can leave traces behind of his DNA. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's after knowing that he took he got his was it master's was it
Yeah, he's
in,
got his master's. He's
in
working on his PhD in criminology.
yeah in criminology. You would think he would not take a risk on leaving that there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Big Blue? Do you think that this was something that he recently acquired, recently purchased? What are your thoughts on him having a leather, product when he's super against?
Yeah, I think it's probably something new because though it didn't say it looked worn or used or old. It said it looked like new. I mean, even the photos are shown, but they haven't shown the actual photo, the actual one that they have in evidence to tell. 'Cause
Right.
I know, like me, if I had a knife and I used it for a while, they get a little rugged on the sheaths. You have to
Yeah.
buy
Mhm.
replacements after a while. So
Well, that, and I would assume that people that knew him, if he had it for a while, would have known that he had a, maybe he's showing it off or something. Somebody would have, maybe have seen it. I think that if this is Bryan Kohberger, which we're not saying it's not, we're not saying that it is. Everybody is presumed innocent until guilty, and everything that we say is allegedly, and
Hmm.
the whole night, and all of it is opinion, less fact. And so, um, and we're not saying that Bryan is innocent or he's getting framed or any of those things or that he's not the guy. He very well may be. What I'm saying is there's a lot of question marks in this probable cause affidavit that I think that Bryan's defense team is going to have a field day with.
Yeah.
And um, you know, if he'd only lived in Moscow for 10 weeks, um, in that time he was able to do all this. Um, I just it's insane and it's a very sad situation. Um, Now, as far as this case goes, do you guys find anything else that seems out of place or ordinary that we discussed?
Um, the thing that just still gets to me is like how was only one footprint um found? throughout the whole, crime scenes.
Yeah.
Uh, a lot of people are suspecting that he was wearing like coverings for his feet, but even
Hmm.
with that, like you would track blood.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like maybe not show so much of the bottom of the sole of a shoe, but enough to give me make it smears on the floor.
Exactly. Like if he had, um, something that was able to be picked up over here,
Hmm.
why wasn't it picked up here
Throughout the
or over
hallway.
here or throughout the hallway? Why is it right there that it was picked up? Yeah, that is also something that brings up a lot of questions. Apparently, he was. Um, it was described as Vans um, shoes.
Well, I was gonna tell you, man. I am a DC fan, and those DCs have those kind of patterns too.
Really.
Yeah.
And so, based on this guy's attire and dress, I mean, I'm not sure. I haven't. We haven't been able to, see what he wears, but I don't know if this is his style either. But
That's
who
my
knows?
style.
Yeah, who knows? It could have been a situation where, um, kind of like that rap song he had. Nobody who would
Yeah,
have thought that.
but like bands nowadays, just like Converse, man. Everybody has a pair.
Yeah.
You know what I
I've
mean?
never had a pair.
Well,
Uh,
see, almost everybody, I guess.
I'm wide footed, so the bands don't fit me, so that's why I went to DCs.
Mm. Yeah, well,
Makes sense.
they're a lot of people wear them. I'm guessing a lot of college people wear them too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they're
Mm.
cheap. My daughters have them. My
Yeah,
daughters
and
have.
plus, you can put them with anything. They're real fashionable,
Yeah.
just like the
Yeah.
card. Like it's real affordable too.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And I mean, there's just so many questions. And guys, please hit that like and subscribe button, especially if you're still with us after 42 minutes. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
It'll help us out, get this content because this type of stuff gets demonetized, and when it does, um, the distribution of the content is minimized as well. So
yeah,
helping the algorithm by hitting the like and subscribe button really does help. And if you guys want to get in contact with us, you can get in contact with us through our email at drunkturkeyshow@gmail.com. Our Twitter is at Drunk Turkey Show. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. We try to answer all questions and comments that come in.
sure.
We can't get to all of them, but we do try to get to as many as we possibly can. Um, you know, I'm a little bit concerned about this case, y'all,
Mhm.
especially with the phone pings. Just to kind of summarize everything up. You have the
Right.
phone pings, and you have a car 6 minutes south of where he's at when he's at home, right?
Yeah,
That possibly is a similar enough vehicle that investigators suspect it's him, possibly because it didn't have a front license plate.
hmm
And if it wasn't him, and those pings are unreliable, all you have left is the DNA and and the footage from the actual footage that they have of the cars driving and the vehicle heading towards that home.
yeah.
The next question is why is it coming from the east to the west? I don't like having questions like that. What are y'all's biggest questions in this that we brought up today?
I mean, my
Um,
question. Oh, go ahead, Jaime.
no, go ahead, man. Go ahead. You go.
My question is, I know pretty sure they're gonna try to use Dylan probably as an eyewitness. Um, and I want to know. I wonder if he'll actually tell his story, or will he plead the fifth the whole time? We'll see, man.
Man,
All
I
right.
don't
What
know.
about you, Jaime?
Um, I think the affidavit we got, for them to put these like pings and not be reliable and use them for the affidavit, I don't think that's a good job on their part. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not really reliable, especially when you're having a ping in Moscow when they said that he's probably not even there. They know that he wasn't there.
Yeah.
That's already reasonable doubt. And I don't know why they will put that on the affidavit. Like, I know they're trying to make it, so they can arrest the guy, right?
My biggest concern about the affidavit with what they put. Now I understand putting it on there and then
Mhm.
showing camera footage to show the reliability of the pings. My thing is when they talk about the road that leads directly from Moscow to Pullman and back, and that would be a possible destination or route that he took.
Yeah.
Even though the cell phone pings show him further south, and that's not the direction he went.
Mhm.
The fact that they put that in there tells me that they're trying to bury this guy in the court of public opinion. When they're doing that, it could be because um, the case may not be as strong as they indicate. Now, the DNA is a strong thing.
Yeah.
My thing is, and it may not just be there. This might be just enough to get the arrest, right? There could be more DNA that they're just not talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
suspect
They
that
only
they
have
would
to
have.
put the enough to get the warrant and get them arrested, and the rest will come out during the hearings.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Discovery,
so,
right?
yeah, during discovery, they are going to find out, the defense will find out exactly what the prosecution knows.
Yeah.
Now, um, my thing is, if it's not, I don't think that's enough DNA, because that doesn't really put him in the house. That just puts him handling the sheath. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't put him in the house. Now, if there's his DNA on a wall, on the sheet, underneath the fingernails, um, on the ground, some of that effect, that puts him in the house. The
Mhm.
DNA they have only puts him handling the sheath at one point.
Mhm.
Now he works in criminology. He's been a security guard. Is it possible that he handled a knife and sheath, and due to that, and somehow that item gets in the wrong hands of somebody else and used, and it still has DNA on it? Perhaps. I think that's what his defense probably is going to be as
Yeah.
to why his DNA is on there. They're going to come up with something.
We still don't know if it's touch DNA or like blood DNA. You know what I mean? And
Right.
they just said it was some sort of DNA. I'm not really sure what it
Well,
was.
if it was blood DNA, don't you think there would be more
Yeah.
on
Definitely.
other things?
Mhm.
And if it was like saliva or sweat or any of those things, shouldn't there be more? Why the mask is only described covering his nose and his mouth. It doesn't describe it covering his head,
Yeah.
right? And so he didn't shed one hair.
Yeah.
He didn't have a piece of hair that he shedded earlier that had fallen onto his body land on one of the other persons as he did what he did.
Yeah.
Like those things they don't add up to me.
Hmm.
They don't. And you know, I would assume there would be somebody's hair,
Yeah.
somebody's sweat, somebody's DNA on there, other than just on the sheath.
On the button of the sheet.
Yeah, yeah, just that blows my mind.
Yeah, I
Now the
mean,
other thing is, oh, go ahead, big
to
boo.
me, it didn't say he wasn't wearing like a cap, a hairnet, a hoodie. So maybe some of his hair did fall off, man. It's a lot of moving going
Yeah.
It
back and
is.
down the stairs. So they might have more.
I
No,
would hope so.
and from like pictures we've seen of him from then, from earlier on, he has a whole set of hair. You know what I mean? He has a lot of hair.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
and
man.
so
And your
So
DNA.
it's kind of unbelievable that just one, if it's touch DNA, if that's it that they have, that's pretty hard. Like either he's that good or it's just super lucky that he just left that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For
yeah,
the,
and
for the law
I
enforcement.
mean, and that touch DNA could have been put on there way earlier, right? He could have been playing with it, and then put it back together, and then uh, he thought he sterilized it, but missed a spot, and had gloves, things of that nature.
Yeah, man. Like if I was a criminal, right, I would have never bought my weapon online. I would have bought it at a flea market. They sell those
Oh,
knives all the time. Thousands of people touch them. Even if you touch it, you run the risk of saying, "Hey, I was at the flea market this day." I touched like 20 of them.
And I always pay with
Sure.
cash.
Always pay with cash. Yeah.
That's true. I mean,
This, but that's just like, why would you pay somebody so much online? Everything's tracked. Like, he's not a
yeah,
smart guy if he was in criminology.
I just,
right. Well,
it's hard.
nobody's.
It's hard to
Go ahead.
believe that even if he forgot the sheath up there and he knew about it, it's hard to believe that he didn't just go up there and grab it and booked it. I mean, he already did what he had to do. I mean, now this guy's not afraid. You know, if it's him, he's not afraid to do this kind of thing. So what stopped him from going up there and just getting it? Unless he remembered
Well,
it was in his car.
I mean, perhaps the fight with Ethan and Xana.
Drained them out.
Not so much that, but like the noise that came out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe somebody heard. He wanted
Could
to get away.
True.
You know, yeah, I think I tend to lead on what the police say and lead with what the police are doing when it comes to these type of cases. You know, and with any case, I tend to think they have more information than what we do, and they
Yeah.
probably got the guy. And there's a lot of information that we don't know, but I think the defense has a case to bring in some reasonable doubt here. You know, you have a possible second vehicle that looks like it. You have a direction of travel that doesn't make sense. You have pings that aren't reliable. Uh, you know, you have a witness who saw him but didn't call the police for several hours later. You know, we may not attack her. You know, some people out there might because they feel that, you know, she's involved or whatever. But I guarantee you the defense doesn't care about that. And they're going to come after her. And they're
Yeah.
going to, you know, point the finger at her as far as a possibility of being involved and how odd that her story sounds. You
Mhm.
know, it's not one that would normally fall into play when you think of a situation that's happening in this manner.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Steve Goncalves, he came out and he talked about how um, at one point that a family member played a prank by trying to break into their house. And Kaylee was home. She got scared, ran in shock as a child, ran into the bed and called 911.
Mhm.
You know, people are going to look at that and say, those are what you normally do. This is
Yeah.
what normal, a normal situation would be done. Is somebody would call 911 if they felt that somebody had intruded into their house. And so, and the other thing we haven't even heard about is what's Bethany's story. She was also there.
Yeah, and I mean, even from the beginning, we thought, from what we knew, we thought both of those roommates were downstairs.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up because this probable cause affidavit states that she originally went to bed in that room. That word originally means that something changed, whether it was where she slept or her story.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so there's just so many question marks about this. And you have the main piece of evidence, in my opinion, the strongest piece of evidence here is the DNA.
Hmm.
And you're right, Blue. If somebody purchased this at a flea market, and those get handled by many of people, or if they were, even if it was bought at a Walmart or at a store, those get handled by employees and employers and Patreons who want to purchase the item and don't purchase it or whatever the case may be. Um, it's you have the fact that it was encased in a leather sheath. That's what they describe it as a leather sheath.
Hmm.
You have a super vegan here who won't even eat who don't want food that had pans that were cooked from meat of cows. And so there's just a lot of like, huh,
Yeah.
I don't know,
you know,
like, um, he he wore regular clothes and stuff like that. And some of those, like vegans, they just mostly the food. And I think the only we're thinking of is like, I want to say they're animal activists and they're part of the, what is it, the one that always throws blood on people and paint on people and stuff. The
Hmm.
right,
PT
PETA.
Yeah.
PETA, yeah, he's not part of PETA, so I
No,
think,
but
yeah,
he's an extremist to a certain extent.
yeah,
As far as his extreme diet and things of that nature. And so, um, and it's very possible that he was aware that that's the kind of that people knew he was that type of way, and so to throw people off, he used it in that manner.
Hmm.
Um, it's quite possible. Um, But he said he was eager to come back and or go back to Idaho and be exonerated of that and the third. That tells me that he may have planted some things, especially with how much information that he knows and his education. I wouldn't be surprised if something pops up, in the defense, like, hey, there's something here that could explain the defense. But the description of where the sheath was. Now, here's the other thing is, and this is where he could have been very stupid. I remember early on in the investigation that the media stated that he had locked the door behind him. Maybe he couldn't get back into Kaylee and Madison's room because he locked the door behind him to get the sheath.
Yeah. So and so he was wearing gloves then because they didn't get DNA off of the doorknob, right?
Right. So that DNA.
That DNA that apparently is on the sheath is probably from earlier that day.
Correct.
If that's the case, you know what I mean?
Or prior to the incident, yeah.
Yeah.
Could have been, yeah.
Because there would have been like fingerprints on the back door from him trying to slide it, grab the handle. So he probably was wearing gloves,
I mean, he was shown wearing gloves cleaning out his car, which is not a unusual thing for somebody who is a clean person. You know what I mean? Like OCD type of clean person.
Germaphobes
wearing gloves. Yeah, germaphobes. It's not something that's uncommon. It is weird, but like, they were saying, oh, he used gloves to clean his car. Like, so like, what is he trying to do? Clean off not put his DNA on there? It's his car. That doesn't make any sense. It's even if he goes and trades it in, that VIN number is going to trace back to that it was once in his possession.
Yeah, original.
So none of that makes any sense.
And I get where they're coming from because, like, if you're just taking the trash out of your car, I wouldn't wear gloves because it's not you left it in there. But if you're using chemicals to wipe something down, then yeah, that's a good reason to wear gloves.
Like he made himself look suspicious. Right?
That makes sense, Blue. That makes sense. He may have been using chemicals to clean something down, and that's why he was using the gloves. But then that trash that they found would have had evidence of those chemicals. And I think that would have been in the probable cause saying, hey, he cleaned out his car and used this type of chemicals, which is usually used to clean blood or whatever the case may be, because that would build your case even more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I think they supposedly the law enforcement saw him. They were, surveilling his home, right? That supposedly he threw away his trash in the neighbor's bin.
Right.
Also,
yeah.
It's just weird things like that are making them look real suspicious,
Yeah. No, he's definitely a suspicious guy. There's nothing, no ends it's about it. It's we're looking at him for a reason.
Yeah. That's pretty gutsy, man. I don't think any of my neighbors are like me throwing my trash in their trash can. So
not if you're Mexican.
And the other thing is too, those properties are separated by a lot. Like it's not like your traditional neighborhood. I think they were like 1 acre plots. So he went out of his way to go discard that trash somewhere else. So that is extremely suspicious, especially if he had no prior knowledge of him being investigated because he didn't do this crime, quote unquote, right? And so, I 100% agree with you guys on that. But we're getting close to that hour mark. I appreciate
20 minutes.
It was supposed to be 20 minutes. But it was a lot to talk about that we wanted to bring up to your guys' attention. We felt that we could do this a lot easier if it was a recorded show versus a live show without the questions and the distractions. But we do appreciate everybody. We'll be going live again tomorrow night. If this does come out tonight, which I'm sure it will. Tonight is Tuesday at the time of this recording. We go live Wednesdays. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Ring that notification bell. Like I said, we're not saying this guy's innocent. We're not saying he's guilty. We just think there's a lot more questions that need answers. Yep. And I'm hoping that, and I feel that the police probably have a lot of those answers. They're just not putting it out there. But this is what I expect the defense to go with. Do you guys have any last comments? We'll start off with you, Big Blue.
No, I just want to say, there's 4 families out there missing their children, and hopefully they got the right guy, and this brings them some peace.
For sure. What about you, Jaime?
Actually, I was going to say about how Blue mentioned the trial. I doubt he's going to stand, tell his story. That's sometimes more damning than anything than helpful.
It is. But I want
And
to see he's sneaky, man. I want to say he's gonna do it.
yeah, I think everybody wants to know his story, but I doubt that his lawyers, they're gonna let him go up there. Also,
What?
I don't know if they're gonna. Do you think they'll probably move the trial?
No,
No.
nah, I don't think so.
Okay.
But what story could he give if what he goes up there to say is, um, I left my house at 2:42. I drove south.
Mm.
I never went into Moscow. That's why my car isn't seen leaving south of Moscow. I went, or maybe he went some other direction, whatever the case may be. But it's not like he's going to be like, oh, I was there, I was near the property. His story is probably that he went for a drive,
Fabricated.
went south, very south, Washington, to the part where it he lost service, and that's why he didn't pick up service to this other part, and that the pins are inaccurate to where his location was. There's not much of a story he can come up there and go with. There's no side of his if his story is he wasn't there.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's why I doubt they're gonna let him go up there. They're not gonna cross-examine him. You know what I mean? No
I
way.
mean, thinking how smart he thinks he is, though, the type of person he might want to.
Yeah, I mean, Ted Bundy did his. He was for, doing the trial by himself. You know what I mean? He got rid of his lawyers.
Yeah, yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if this guy wants to go up there and talk and say his side of the story.
It could be, but I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it that's the case. But hopefully, like I said, we're not saying he's innocent or guilty. We're just saying our opinions on what the affidavit gave us.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments section. Do you guys think that this is a strong PCA after we've broken down everything? Do you guys think that there's some questions that need to be answered? Let us know. Do you think we're completely off track here and crazy? Put it in there. We might be. Who knows?
Yeah, I've been known to be a little crazy here and there. So.
Yeah. Blue's jumping through a table in the next live. I want to thank everybody for coming on in. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Ring that bell on your way out. Peace out, guys.
Later, man.
Have a good night.
Is this still on?
It's still on.
I was gonna show you my